Assalamu alaikum. Today on Nuran Academy, we discuss the architecture of the scholarly mind, the traditional Islamic education system. If you benefit, please support by subscribing and sharing as a sadaqah.
Wow, what a powerful statement, right? It really gets to the heart of what we're exploring today. This is the core idea behind a system that for centuries wasn't just about training minds, but about training souls. It was designed to shape character and protect truth, and it produced some of the greatest intellectual and spiritual giants in history. So let's dive in.
You know, when we think of education today, we picture universities, lecture halls, degrees on the wall. But long before all of that, a completely different model for learning existed. And our journey today begins with understanding the problem that system was built to solve, a kind of global crisis in learning that showed the deep need for an education built on character. So, what was the big problem this system was trying to fix? Well, in many places back then, knowledge was basically locked away. It was a privilege for the elite. And even for those who could get it, learning was often just shallow. It was all about memorizing facts and figures, but it wasn't actually transforming people on the inside. The focus was totally on information over the formation of an ethical person, which, let's be honest, is a challenge we still face today. It was clear that humanity needed something more than just data. It needed a system that could produce scholars you could actually trust, people who were ethical, disciplined, and truly accountable. And the answer came from a really unique philosophy, one that saw knowledge not as something you own, but as a sacred trust. And this is where the Islamic approach really flipped the script. See, knowledge wasn't a product you could buy or a fancy certificate to hang on the wall. No, it was seen as an amana, a sacred trust. And honestly, that one single idea, it changes everything. Just think about the weight of that word, a trust. It means the knowledge isn't really yours to do whatever you want with. It's a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, given to us with the expectation that we'll protect it and pass it on with absolute integrity. And right alongside that trust comes the second pillar, masuliyah, or responsibility. This principle of masuliyah meant that you were on the hook for your knowledge. It wasn't just about what you knew, it was about how you learned it, how you used it in your life, and how you taught it to others. This completely changed the entire focus of what education was all about. So the most important question wasn't, what do you know anymore? It became, who taught you? And that is a revolutionary way of thinking. It puts all the emphasis on your source, your lineage, and on proving you've truly mastered the material. So how do they actually put this into practice? Well, that's what we're going to look at next, the scholar's training ground. Now, these ideas weren't just abstract theories. They were built right into the structure of learning. You had incredible institutions like the Nizamiya madrasa popping up all over. And as you can see here, the learning environment itself was revolutionary. Instead of sitting in cold, impersonal rows, students learned in a halaqah, a circle. And that circle, it wasn't just symbolic. It created a real sense of community. It was interactive. It was relational. And the teacher was at the center of it all. Not just some figure at the front of a room. Learning was a relationship. But hey, any real relationship needs accountability, right? And that brings us to the system's core mechanism for quality control, the ijazah. So how did they ensure the knowledge stayed pure? Forget about a piece of paper from a big anonymous institution. The real certification was the ijazah, a personal, direct license from a teacher to their student. The process, as you see here, was incredibly rigorous. It started with true mastery of a text. Then, the teacher would give their personal certification. And finally, the student would become a new link in an unbroken chain of transmission. It was a brilliant system of checks and balances. So you have to wonder, what kind of person did this system actually produce? Well, it was never just about creating intellectual giants. It was about forging sincere hearts. And to really understand this, we need to look at a powerful example, the inner journey of one of its most famous scholars, Imam al-Ghazali. Imam al-Ghazali is a perfect testament to this entire system. The man was an absolute powerhouse. He mastered law, philosophy, theology. They literally called him the proof of Islam. By any measure, he had reached the absolute peak of academic success. But here's the most incredible part of his story, and it's not about his intellect. At the very height of his fame, he did something radical. He started to question his own sincerity. He actually walked away from his prestigious position and embarked on a decade-long spiritual journey, all to purify his intentions, because he deeply understood this profound truth.
This incredible legacy of character-based learning isn't just a story from the past. It left behind timeless lessons that are just as relevant for us today. And that's what we'll explore in our final section.
The impact of this system is just massive. It literally shaped the architecture of modern education around the world. The first universities in Europe, they were influenced by this model. The whole idea of academic certification, like a degree, you can trace that right back to the ijazah. But for me, the most important legacy is that this system preserved intellectual honesty for centuries because it was focused on building minds before it built monuments.
And this brings us right to a tension that I think we all feel today. I mean, look at this contrast. Our ancestors valued depth over speed, while the modern world often just wants a fast certificate. Their big question wasn't, how fast can I finish this? It was, how true can I become? It was a culture focused on the formation of a human being, not just the downloading of information. This really says it all, doesn't it? Information without the discipline of character to guide it just becomes noise. And on the flip side, worship without the guidance of sound knowledge can easily become empty imitation. The traditional Islamic education system is this powerful reminder that you need both wings to fly. Knowledge and spirit have to work together. The scholars trained in this system literally built a civilization. The architects of it understood a simple truth. If you want to build something that will endure, you first have to build the people who will build it. So the question this whole legacy leaves for us is a deeply personal one. If they trained minds with such profound care, how will you train yours now? Presented and created by Nuance Studio.